Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 1090 Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all, and y'all rocking with me. And for this Friday, I want to give y'all one of the most detailed, violent stories from inside of the Florida Department of Corrections. And like any video where I speak on a murder, where I speak on the victim, I ask that you keep the highest level of respect in the comments section.
I'm Paula Thomas.
Randy Thomas.
So we have a son, Reuben, who is the oldest of four, and he has two children. One he never met. We lost him when he was 24 years old. He's a correctional officer, and an inmate stabbed him while he was at work.
Sergeant Reuben Thomas, born June 9th, 1987, a lifelong resident of Lake City, Florida, graduated from Columbia High in 2005 and began working for the Florida Department of Corrections in 2006 at the age of 19. Employed for 6 years in corrections, his life would come to a tragic end in 2012 at the Columbia Correctional Institution. Richard Franklin, born June 5th, 1974, would lose his freedom for the rest of his life at the age of 20. Ormond Beach police caught Richard Franklin after receiving reports about a man shooting at a 72-year-old in the parking lot of an apartment complex and then stealing his car. Minutes later, police were notified of a car crashing and the driver fleeing on foot. For almost an hour, Ormond Beach police and Volusia County sheriffs chased the man through the woods with the help of a helicopter and canines. Franklin was caught and charged with attempted murder, armed robbery, grand theft, aggravated battery, and use of a firearm in the commission of a crime. Taken to the Volusia County Jail and held without bail, Daytona Beach detectives went to the jail and re-arrested Franklin on an outstanding first-degree murder warrant. Gregory Roper, a 25-year-old senior at the Bethune-Cookman College in Daytona Beach, Florida, was last seen getting into a car with Richard and Richard's brother Lenny. A witness said he heard Richard say Roper had ripped him off. Roper's body was discovered the next morning in the woods in West Daytona Beach with multiple gunshot wounds to his lower body. He bled out after repeatedly being shot with a shotgun. In 1997, Richard Franklin was sentenced to life for the shotgun murder of Gregory Roper, a second life sentence for robbery with a gun, 30 years for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, along with his 1 year and 8 month sentence for an escape and battery on a law enforcement officer he received 3 months prior. In 2012, Sergeant Reuben Thomas and inmate Richard Franklin would have a deadly encounter. Richard Franklin was housed in cell 3206 on the top tier of Quad 3 within T-Dorm at Columbia Correctional Institution. His cellmate, Robert Acree, sold him a 10.5-inch knife 2 to 3 months prior to the incident. Franklin and his cellmate testified in court that Sergeant Thomas conducted 3 unnecessary cell shakedowns, spoke with Franklin aggressively, and at one point ensured that Franklin was either the last inmate to eat or would not eat at all during the last chow. Days before the incident, Franklin testified a childish altercation occurred between him and Sergeant Thomas, in which Franklin invited Sergeant Thomas to handle it head up in the cell or the empty room used as a barber shop within the dorm. According to Franklin, Thomas responded, "If you want me in there, you know how to get me down there." Reuben Thomas was working the 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. shift inside of T-Dorm as the dorm sergeant, along with Officer Bradley Meyer inside of the officer's station. On March 18, 2012, Shortly after the 10:30 p.m. master count of the inmates, Franklin removed from the air vent in his cell a piece of cardboard that typically was used to control the cell's temperature. He then used the Quad 3 intercom to summon Thomas to the cell under the false pretense that water was leaking from the vent. Thomas informed Meyer that he was going to inspect an inmate's cell. Once Thomas entered Quad 3, he generally inquired about who had water coming from their vent, to which Franklin responded, "Up here, Sarge," and called out his cell number. Thomas approached the cell, and Franklin called him to the back to look up at the vent. Witnesses testified that Thomas was carrying a bag of potato chips at the time and did not appear prepared to fight. Franklin testified that once Thomas came to the back of the cell and looked up at the vent, Franklin asked, "What's up? What's up now?" Thomas simply laughed, and he went to eating his chips. At that point, Franklin hit Thomas in the face, breaking his nose and causing him to badly bleed. Placing the sergeant in a headlock, he then hit Thomas in the stomach and chest area and knocked Thomas's radio out of his hand. Thomas's panic button also ended up on the floor. Thomas managed to disengage himself and flee from the cell. Myers testified that he saw Thomas running across the second floor catwalk towards the front of the quad, down the staircase, and out the quad sliding entrance door towards the outer officers station door in the Salaport. By the time Thomas reached the bottom of the staircase, Franklin emerged from the cell while brandishing a knife and ran in the same direction as Thomas. The sliding entrance door was closing, but Franklin managed to capture it and push it back far enough to squeeze through into the Salaport. As Thomas approached the officer's station, he yelled, back door," meaning for Officer Meyer to unlock the outer door to the officer's station. Meyer complied and simultaneously radioed for backup. Once Thomas got through the outer door, he tried to close it. However, Franklin caught up and wedged his foot in the doorway to prevent the door from shutting and locking. Franklin testified that he initially did not think he would catch Thomas, but when he was able to wedge the outer door, he got excited and thought to himself, "I got you," and that he had an opportunity to whoop Thomas's ass. A struggle over the outer door ensued. Thomas tried to pull the door closed while Franklin attempted to force it open. Each time the door opened, Franklin struck Thomas with a knife in a downward motion. Inmate Samuel Seelig specifically recalled Franklin burying the knife into Thomas's neck, causing blood to squirt inside the vestibule area outside of the officer's station. He also recalled the outer door eventually closing, after which Thomas fell to his hands and knees, coughed up blood, and rolled over onto his back. The struggle lasted approximately 30 seconds. By that time, inmates in each quad had gathered on the quad windows in observation. They began beating on the glass and yelling. Franklin walked around the vestibule and made a cutthroat gesture with his right thumb towards the inmates. He then entered Quad 2. Captain Michelle Nipper responded to the annex. Upon arriving at T-Dorm, she ordered the officers to lock down the inmates in each quad. A standoff at the Quad 2 door eventually began between Franklin and the correction officers, where Franklin was able to strike Officer William Brewer with a lock and a sock, crushing his orbital socket and causing partial blindness in his right eye, then stripping him of his spray. Franklin was locked inside of the quad, and the officers were gathering in front of the quad door. Captain Nipper ordered Franklin to relinquish the items and surrender, but he refused. Franklin removed prison uniforms from a laundry bag, tied them together, and fastened the garments to the outside of the showers and the fire exit door to prevent the officers from entering the quad through that door. He returned to the quad's front door, yelling to the captain, "Bitch, you ain't taking me alive," and violently shaking the door. The designated armed response team, or DOT members, arrived at T-Dorm. Franklin entered cell 2108 on Quad 2's first floor and broke the sprinkler head, causing the fire alarm and strobe lights to activate. Because water erupted from the sprinkler system, an ankle-high flood filled the quad. Additional officers, along with the assistant warden, Tony Anderson, had arrived at Quad 2's front entrance by that time. Franklin continued to disobey the officers' orders to relinquish his weapons and surrender himself. One of the officers sprayed Franklin with chemical gas through a porthole in the quad door in an attempt to relinquish the weapons. Franklin wiped his face off and said in a pissed off manner, "I'm going to get another one of y'all. Y'all come on, I'm ready for you." Franklin also attempted to spray the officers with his canister of pepper spray, but ran out. Using a non-lethal round, a DOT member shot Franklin in the upper torso. Franklin fell to the floor and dropped his knife and pepper spray. The officers then rushed into the quad, administered more of the chemical gas, and apprehended Franklin. Thomas died as a result of a laceration wound almost 3 inches in depth to the left side of his neck. The jugular vein and small blood vessels from the subclavian artery were cut. Thomas's left lung was punctured, and as a result, 1/5 of blood filled the left chest cavity and caused the lung to collapse. Thomas also sustained incised wounds on the right side of his face and the left scalp. His skull was fractured, leaving the knife tip bent. In total, he was stabbed 14 times. 44-year-old Richard Franklin was sentenced to death in August of 2013 for the murder of Sergeant Reuben Thomas. But U.S. Supreme Court rulings found Florida death penalty procedures to be unconstitutional, resulting in a vacated sentence. Richard Franklin remains in his maximum custody cell at Union Correctional, while his resentencing is still pending. Sergeant Reuben Thomas, who died at 24 years old, left behind his pregnant fiancée and daughter Emma. Now, this is one of the most vicious stabbings that I've been able to come across and actually read the reports and read the records from the courts, hearing the details of what this man did and how he ended up killing the sergeant. And not only that, but killings of DOC staff is not common whatsoever. So to actually hear how this played out and the madness in which he was able to kill a sergeant and hospitalize another officer before being taken down. Now, I watched Sergeant Reuben Thomas's memorial video on YouTube in which there were comments from inmates that were at Columbia when he was employed there. And they said that this sergeant, and before he even became sergeant, was known for harassing the inmates, disrespecting the inmates, beating inmates, spitting in inmates' food. He was not known as a good CO, and COs getting killed is not a common thing. And I personally believe when COs are attacked, it is generally because they have provoked inmates time after time. I do not think these attacks are random. But I also don't believe what Sergeant Reuben Thomas did is punishable by death. His killer, on the other hand, the death penalty is something that a lot of people feel two ways about. Me personally, speaking on his killer, I see no reason to keep the man alive. At the age of 20, he was already killing and attempted to kill a 72-year-old man. Who knows how much violence he caused while inside of the prison system, as it was said that he had a long history of disciplinary reports within the prison. And I'm pretty positive that for the staff that still work within the DOC, none of them would lose any sleep at night by executing this man. Now, what made me feel differently about Sergeant Reuben Thomas, hearing that he was killed, hearing that he abused the inmates, hearing that a lot of the things that I went through by abusive staff, he was doing, what made me sympathize and what made me view him in one way, then view him as a fellow human, was the pictures that I saw of him and his daughter. As y'all know, I have a 2-year-old daughter. She's gonna be 3 in October. She's my world, she's my priority. She's everything to me. And it said in his obituary that she was everything to him. And he also had an unborn child at the time of his death, in which there was a picture of his 2 kids holding a picture frame of their father. In the memorial video, you hear a member of the family speaking against the heads of the Florida Department of Corrections.
Every year on this day, it's like every reality of him being gone comes back and feels like a wrecking ball slamming into my chest. Every emotion I had on that night and that horrible morning just flies back up to slap you in the face and in the heart. The selfish anger at God for taking him away, the anger at our governor for closing the prisons and adding the extra prisoners, the extra danger here at Columbia. As if there isn't already enough danger that each and every one of the men and women that walk behind those gates every day and night have to face.
I feel that there is not enough sympathy on either end. When an inmate dies, he's just an inmate. When a cop dies, he's just a pig. We don't sympathize with each other. We don't see the family members that are affected that had nothing to do with whatever was going on. When that inmate dies, you don't see his kids that have suffered year after year of him not being home. When that CO dies, you don't see the family. You don't see the kids that never get to see their father again. As far as the death penalty goes, I'm not against it. I'm not against it whatsoever, and I truly believe in equality. If you're gonna kill a man for murdering an innocent sergeant, if he was innocent, and you give him the death penalty, okay. But like I said, equality. If you have a CO or police officer that then murders an innocent man or an innocent inmate, then he is also to receive the death penalty. And it should honestly be even worse because of the fact that he had that badge and he already had power over that human being. That abuse of power in itself should be an additional punishment. But I'm not here to bash Sergeant Thomas. I'm not here to bash his killer. I'm not here to be biased about either side. I share these stories because I hope that my viewers, which could be on either side, maintain respect in the comment section and maintain respect in life, because if we can come together without this division, we can change the Florida Department of Corrections. If we can put out these stories, we can change the mind of the youth from committing acts that will land them inside of prison, where there are abusive staff members and where there are psychopathic killers that have nothing to lose. And with that being said, it's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all, y'all rocking with me. Till next time.